Welcome to my channel, The Human Frontier. I didn't realize something was wrong until the guards stopped saluting me. For 3 weeks I had been stationed on the alien world of Virelia as a low-level human engineering consultant, assigned to assist the Virelian Empire with repairing a damaged orbital stabilizer. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was important, and humans didn't yet hold enough influence in the Interstellar Alliance to demand prestigious roles. Most of the Virelians treated me politely but distantly. To them, humans were clever but physically unimpressive, useful technicians, not figures of power. That was fine with me. I preferred being unnoticed. But everything changed the morning she arrived. Her name was Ceres. She walked into the engineering bay surrounded by 2 silent armored escorts, her long silver-blue cloak brushing the floor like flowing water. Her eyes, deep violet with faint glowing rings, moved across the room with quiet authority before finally settling on me. "You are Daniel Hayes?" she asked. I nodded, surprised. "Yes, that's me." "You will come with me." That was all she said. No explanation. No rank given. Just certainty. The other engineers stared as I removed my gloves and followed her out of the bay. No one dared ask questions. On Virelia, when someone with that kind of presence issued a command, you obeyed. As we walked through the massive corridors of the Capitol complex, I noticed something strange. Soldiers stepped aside instantly when they saw her, lowering their heads slightly. Not the full formal bow reserved for the Emperor, but far more respect than I had ever seen shown to an ordinary official. "Where are we going?" I finally asked. "You will see," she replied calmly. That answer did absolutely nothing to calm me. We entered a restricted section of the palace I had never been allowed to access before. The architecture changed immediately. Towering crystal pillars, glowing ceiling panels, and walls etched with ancient Virelian symbols that pulsed faintly with energy. My instincts told me this was not a place where low-level human consultants were normally invited. "Is there some kind of problem with the stabilizer repairs?" I asked. "No," Ceres said. "You completed that work successfully." "Then, why am I here?" She paused for just a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "Because someone has requested to meet you." "Who?" She looked straight ahead as the massive golden doors at the end of the corridor came into view. "The one person whose request cannot be refused." My stomach tightened. There were only a few individuals in the Virelian Empire who fit that description. 2 enormous guards stood before the doors, armored from head to toe in ceremonial black plating. The moment Ceres approached, they struck their staffs against the floor and stepped aside without a word. That was when I realized something else. They hadn't even checked her authorization. They didn't need to. The doors opened silently. Inside, a vast throne chamber stretched farther than I could see at first glance. Rows of officials, military commanders, nobles, and diplomats lined the sides of the hall. At the far end, elevated on a platform of luminous stone, stood the imperial throne itself, currently empty. I stopped walking. "Ceres," I whispered. "I think there's been a mistake. I shouldn't be here." She didn't slow down. "You are exactly where you need to be." We stepped fully into the chamber. And suddenly, something happened that I will never forget for the rest of my life. Everyone bowed. Not slightly. Not politely. Every noble, every general, every official in the throne room lowered themselves deeply, heads down, hands crossed over their chests in the formal gesture of imperial respect. For a split second, I panicked. They couldn't possibly be bowing to me. Then I realized something even more shocking. They weren't bowing to me. They were bowing to her. I turned toward Ceres, my mind racing. "You, who are you?" I whispered. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she guided me forward, step by step, toward the central platform. The entire hall remained silent except for the faint echo of our footsteps across the polished floor. When we reached the base of the platform, she finally turned to face me. "Daniel Hayes," she said softly, "you once helped an injured traveler outside the Northern Trade District. Do you remember?" It took me a moment. Then the memory surfaced. 2 months earlier, late at night, finding a woman collapsed near the transit lanes, clearly wounded but refusing medical transport. I had helped clean the injury, repaired a damaged translator implant she carried, and walked her safely back to the Central District. "I remember," I said. "But that was just. That traveler was me." My brain struggled to process the words. "You." She reached up slowly and removed the silver-blue cloak clasped at her shoulders. Beneath it, a ceremonial crest shimmered across her uniform, an emblem I had only ever seen in official transmissions. The imperial crest of Virelia. "I am Ceres Valerin," she said calmly, "crown heir of the Virelian Empire." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "You're the princess." I finally managed. "Yes. And I helped you, without knowing. That is why you are here." She turned and ascended the steps of the platform, then gestured for me to stand beside her, not below, not behind, but beside. The throne chamber remained silent, every eye fixed on us. A herald stepped forward and struck the ceremonial staff against the floor, presenting Her Imperial Highness, Crown Princess Ceres Valerin. The hall echoed with the announcement. Then Ceres raised her hand, signaling silence. "Today," she said, her voice carrying effortlessly across the chamber, "I have summoned this gathering for a reason that concerns not politics, nor military strategy, nor diplomacy." She glanced at me briefly before continuing. 2 months ago, while traveling in civilian disguise, I was attacked outside the Northern District. Injured and unable to call for assistance, I encountered a human citizen who did not know my identity and did not ask. A murmur rippled through the chamber. He repaired my translator implant, ensured my safety, and refused any form of reward. When I asked why he helped me, he answered with a statement I have not forgotten, because someone needed help. I felt my face heating with embarrassment. "You could have just told them quietly," I whispered. She smiled faintly. "Quiet gratitude is easily forgotten. Public truth is not." She turned back to the assembly. In an era when empires measure worth by rank, power, and lineage, this human demonstrated something greater, character without expectation of recognition. The nobles exchanged uneasy glances. Some seemed uncomfortable, others impressed. Ceres continued, her voice firm. "From this day forward, Daniel Hayes will serve as special technical advisor to the Crown, with full diplomatic clearance across all imperial sectors." I stared at her, stunned. "That's not necessary," I said quietly. "It is," she replied. "Because the Empire must learn that loyalty is not determined by species or status." The Emperor himself entered the chamber moments later, an older figure with calm, observant eyes. He studied me for a long moment before speaking. "My daughter tells me you refused compensation when you aided her," he said. "I didn't know who she was," I answered honestly. "I would have helped anyone." The Emperor nodded slowly. "That is precisely why the gesture matters." He raised his hand slightly. "Daniel Hayes, on behalf of the Virelian Empire, you are granted honorary citizenship and advisor status under royal authority." Once again, the entire chamber bowed. This time, I realized something incredible. Some of them were bowing to me. Later, after the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, Ceres walked with me along a quiet balcony overlooking the capital city. Streams of aerial traffic moved like glowing rivers beneath the sunset sky. "You look overwhelmed," she said gently. "I'm still trying to understand what just happened," I admitted. Yesterday I was just another human technician. Today half the empire thinks I'm important. You were always important, she said. You simply didn't stand in the right room yet. I laughed softly. I helped someone on the street. That hardly qualifies me for royal advisory status. She leaned slightly against the balcony railing. In this palace, most people help others because they must, or because they expect something in return. You helped without either reason. That is rare. I didn't know what to say to that. Weeks passed, and my new position gradually became normal, at least as normal as working inside an alien royal court could be. I attended strategy meetings, assisted in infrastructure planning, and collaborated with imperial engineers who now treated me with surprising respect. But the moment that changed everything remained burned in my memory. Walking into that throne room, seeing hundreds of powerful figures bow, and realizing it wasn't about power at all. It was about a single decision made on an ordinary night, helping someone who needed help without knowing who they were. Months later, during a diplomatic summit, I stood once again near the throne platform while foreign delegates gathered. Ceres approached, now wearing full ceremonial attire, her presence commanding the attention of the entire hall. You seem more comfortable here now, she said. I'm getting used to it, I replied. Though I still feel like someone is going to realize they invited the wrong person. She smiled slightly. No mistake was made. As the herald announced the beginning of the summit, officials across the chamber lowered their heads in formal greeting. For a brief moment, I remembered the first day I entered that hall, confused, uncertain, convinced I didn't belong. Now I understood something I hadn't before. Sometimes destiny doesn't arrive through heroic battles or grand ambitions. Sometimes it begins with a simple act of kindness. And sometimes, it begins the moment someone leads you into a throne room. And suddenly everyone bows.